From the Thomas K. McKeon Center for Creativity at Tulsa Community College's Metro Campus in downtown Tulsa, this is the Big Blue Podcast. I'm Greg Stone, Southeast Campus Provost, normally joined by our president, Dr. Lee Goodson, but sitting in today is Nicole Bergen, our Media Relations Manager. Nicole, thanks for sitting in.
Thank you for having me. It's taking me back to my radio days.
You are the consummate professional, so thanks for putting up with the amateur here. But we're joined here by another communication professional, Dr. Kristopher Copeland, who is our still relatively new West Campus Provost. Kristopher, thanks for taking time to be here today.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
You'll still have the new moniker for a year. Right? That's what I heard this week.
Gosh, I feel like I've been here forever, but yeah, it's only been 4 months.
It has only been 4 months. It does seem like you've been here longer than that because you've just jumped into the work, and it's been great to have you on our team.
Thanks.
So great to work with you. For people who are listening who maybe weren't able to come and meet you during the interview process, when you were part of a presentation at the final round of interviews, tell us a little bit about your background in higher ed, where you came from, and how you made your way to Tulsa Community College.
Sure. Well, it is transfer week, so I've got to put a plug in that I was a transfer student.
Yay.
I was a community college student in Southeast Oklahoma. And I loved college so much, I've just never left. I've been here ever since, which a lot of us have that experience, right? So through my college experiences, I always wanted to be a teacher, and I taught in a high school setting and did not like it that much. So I didn't know what to do. So I went back to college, went to grad school, but I became a graduate teaching assistant, and I loved it. I thought, this is my calling. So after I finished my master's, I moved to Florida, and I taught at a community college in Jacksonville for 3 years. And then I had an opportunity to come back to Oklahoma, so I taught at NSU for 9 years. And during that time, I completed my doctorate, and I did a lot of things at NSU. I was a coordinator, I was a gen ed coordinator, I was a program coordinator, I was a speech and debate coach, and then I started doing more and more administrative tasks, and I enjoyed that work, so I felt like it was time to jump full-time into that. So it took me to Dallas at Northlake College, where I was a dean of liberal arts for 2 years, and then I had the opportunity here, so I'm so excited to be at Tulsa Community College now.
So what made you want to come back to this area? So obviously your experience at NSU and being familiar with this area, but Tulsa Community College, and what made you want to come?
It's a really good question. For so long I had just wanted to be a dean. I had applied for a couple jobs and wanted to be a dean, and I thought I'll be a dean forever, right? So I wound up at Northlake, and I enjoyed the job, but I think life presents itself some opportunities to you, and so I was not on the job market at all, but I had never cleared my account from higheredjobs.com. So, I continued to get emails when jobs would open up, and so this one came through my email last September, October, I think. And so I told my wife, hey, this job at TCC is open. What do you think? She's like, I'm not ready to move. We just got settled into Dallas. She'd just made some friends in our neighborhood. And I was like, okay. So we kicked it around for another maybe 5, 6, 7 days. And like near the end of the applicant pool, I was like, I'm going to throw my name in the hat, and see what happens. So there you are. I also, being from this area, I knew TCC had a really good reputation. I'd worked with Donna Goodwin, or was it Good? Yeah, I think it was Donna Goodwin, who was a speech and debate coach at TCC. We had co-hosted some tournaments, so I'd been at the Northeast campus some, and I'd always enjoyed my time at TCC when I was here, so it felt like a good opportunity. So when I saw it, it was very enticing. Of course, getting to come home is nice too. So I just thought, I can't pass this up because I don't know when the opportunity would present itself again.
We just kind of semi-joking a little earlier said you really just jumped into the work, but it's true. You really have jumped into the work. Lots of things that you sort of walked into, including the planning, still kind of in the planning stages of what will be the Hardesty Student Success and Career Center at the West Campus. What have the first 4 months been like for you? It's not been a quiet entry just because of the work that was already underway, when you came.
I think it's good though that there's work underway that I could just jump right in it, because then it made me sort of feel like I've been here for a while. Like, I'm just doing the work, right? It's been great. It's been a great 4 months. But you're right. I mean, there's just so much going on, specifically at the West Campus, because we have the Success Center build that's coming. So it felt like in June when I got here, like week number 2, there was this Success Center meeting on my calendar. I was like, what's that about? So from there, it's just been planning a lot of construction, temporary moves, which has been great. And then just the work, the daily work of the areas that sort of report up through my provost position, working with online learning, engaged learning, and then IR&A. So each of those have different needs, different attention that I need to give to them. So it's been good. A part of it's just been learning those different areas and trying to understand what sort of attention do I need to give them, what sort of guidance can I provide, but also how do I support and assist them in my role on the cabinet when different things come up. So it's been interesting.
I'm Nicole Bergen, filling in for TCC President Lee Goodson, here with co-host Dr. Greg Stone, and you're listening to the Big Blue Podcast. Our guest today is Dr. Kristopher Copeland, Provost of West Campus, and we've been talking about his fast introduction into Tulsa Community College. You said how many months you've been here?
4 months. Yeah.
And the volume of work that you have been thrown into is quite impressive. Can we talk about how you got acquainted with TCC West Campus and TCC in general and the people who work there, and then what you've learned about that campus?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. For me, it was really important to just get to know the people at TCC, but specifically at the West Campus. So my first month, maybe month and a half, I took time to move around the campus, to get to know folks. We had an open forum. When Dave Poth was still here, he was very instrumental in helping me with that transition of these are the people that can help you navigate X, Y, or Z. So that was really nice to have him, and I relied on him a lot in that first month. I would call him up. I had him on speed dial. Who do I need to talk to about this? Facilities questions or things like that. So he was great to sort of do some onboarding with. And then in the various areas like institutional research, engaged learning, and online learning, I sort of did some onboarding activities that I learned from my time at Northlake, where I met with all of them as a group, and then I asked them some very specific questions, and we went around the room and sort of jotted down our ideas about what's working well for this division, what are some areas or some challenges that could be improved, what are some areas of support that you need from the college. So working with each of those groups and gathering that input was really critical for me to sort of gain speed on what are they currently working on, what projects are working, what are some areas that need some attention that I could provide some support for.
And we should say, too, that just to talk about Dave Poth a little bit, now our fairly recently retired Dean of Business and IT, who was interim provost for about a year after
Correct.
Dr. Kevin David had left. So just talking about or thinking about what you said about meeting with employees on campus and sort of getting to understand what the needs were, what's your vision for the future of that campus? I mean, as someone who has not worked there full time, I can sort of see some potential and some opportunities, but where would you like the campus to be in the next 5 or 10 years? What are the opportunities for growth there?
We have a great concurrent enrollment office. So Lissa Steadley has done a great job reaching out to area high schools, just around the college, but specifically at West Campus, Sapulpa, Manford, Charles Page in Sand Springs. We have Webster. And instead of us launching our classes at their campuses, she's been bringing them to West so that they become an anchor for some of our gen ed courses. And for me, I would love to see us expand that even more. Lay out all my cards on the table, talking with Lissa Steadley. It would be nice to, eventually work towards maybe that early college high school model at West Campus. I would love to see that grow and expand in that area, and specifically target an early college high school model where you're focusing on underrepresented minority students, low socioeconomic status students, to really make an impact on the area that we serve at the West Campus. I think that could be a game changer for that population. I think a second thing that I really like to see at West is just to continue to think about how do we support the pathways philosophy in everything that we do. I think the Success Center coming on board is one example of that, how we're going to integrate those services. But I also think we should think about what are some other opportunities at the West Campus that we can continue to capitalize on that can support student success. And then I guess the last thing I can sort of think of off the top of my head is to think about how do we continue to grow enrollment beyond the concurrent enrollment population. So I would love to target like a direct degree program like they're doing at Northeast. And I've had conversations with Eunice and Pat Green about what could that look like for a child development program or an early childhood development program. So we're in the really early stages of that, but really targeting folks that are working in sort of child care settings and helping them obtain a credential.
So being a part of the Big Blue podcast means that you have the big question at the end.
Yes.
And that is, if you could go back in time to give your 18-year-old self some advice before you started college, what would that be?
I'm sure this is cliche, and I'm sure it's been said time and time again, but I think it's just go with it and don't be afraid of the next step. I think I was very cautious in college, and I was afraid to take chances on things. So, I went a very specific route of like, I'm going to go in this education major, and then I didn't really like the teaching in the high school, right? But I did come back around to it in college, which was great. So I'd take more risks, enjoy the experience, and don't be afraid to take those risks.
Do you consider yourself still a cautious person or take risk
I've
person
always
now?
been kind of a cautious person. I would love to say I would take risks. I think there are times where, I make that decision. Okay, this is risky. I'm going to do it. But I would say, when I'm really thoughtful about it, I'm probably going to be a little bit more cautious.
You've been listening to the Big Blue Podcast from the Thomas K. McKeon Center for Creativity at Tulsa Community College's Metro Campus. Today we've been joined by my colleague, Dr. Kristopher Copeland. Dr. Copeland, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And thank all of you for listening. Remember, you can catch the Big Blue Podcast each week in the week at TCC and on the Creativity channel at YouTube. Nicole, thank you for being here today, and we will see you next time.